you go and have another practice now?
I don't think so, no. I mean, obviously played 3 days in a row, so won't hit any balls, just try and rest up and get ready for the final.
So Andy, you watched the end of Dimitrov's match against Bagdanis, or a lot of it?
Well, I watched from pretty much the end of the second set, so obviously warming up in the gym, and you're obviously following the score to see whether you need to get ready. So I saw end of second set and most of the third.
So what's your take on his level? You haven't played him again since 2011, but did he show you something today?
Well, I mean, I'll find out exactly tomorrow. It's sometimes hard watching on the TV because you don't know how hard some of the balls are coming, or how low someone's slice is, or how it's coming through the court. So you really find out once you get on the court with them. But he's obviously played well this week. I think he's served pretty well majority of the week, and it's obviously a big win for him today.
He's a guy who has been tipped to be a good player for a while. I think he's the kind of player that the tour needs to come through from that next generation.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, from my point of view, I hope that there isn't people coming through, because it means that I'll be one of the ones that's losing out on a spot. But I say it every time, there's loads of guys that are very, very tough players, all different games. Grigor plays with a lot of variety as well. He can play a lot of shots. He's one of the few guys coming through that's got single-handed backhand as well. So he uses a lot more slice than the others, and you just have to wait and see. You need to give them time. Physically, the game's changed a lot, and when you play in the slams, obviously in really hot temperature, that's when physically you need to be extremely tough, and that's when you'll find out about them when they get through some long, tough 5-set matches.
You think the physical evolution is kind of more of an issue than the mental?
I think it's a bit of both, because when you're used to in the juniors winning and shots that you're hitting, and the juniors that are winning shots, when they're coming back 3, 4, 5 times, mentally that is tough. And you need to adjust your game a little bit, and also physically you need to get much stronger, so your ball's coming through the court much harder, and so that shots that are winners against you aren't winners anymore, and it takes 3, 4 shots to get it past you. So it takes time now.
Andy, what's your take on the umpires being more proactive with the time violations? I think Marco's got 2 or 3 today.
Well, I mean, I'm for them being more strict with the time, but I think they maybe should have increased the time allowed first, because 25 seconds goes by pretty quick, and we were told the reason for them changing the rule is because of the Aussie Open final last year, which I think everyone agrees is a classic match, and right now that match is getting shown when there's a delay or someone's pulled out or something. So it's not like the TV hated the match so much that they're never going to show it again. And I also think tennis also has changed as well since the time came into it. The time in between points, the rallies are much longer, so therefore it takes longer to recover. I like that there's a time violation in there. I think it'll be good, but I think starting off with 25 seconds at the beginning was a bit too much, because players just aren't used to playing at that pace, and by the time it's a huge advantage for the returner, not for the server, I think, because the returner can just get to the line and just stand there and say that he's ready, whereas the server, 99% of players bounce the ball 3 or 4 times before they serve, and that's when guys are getting the penalties, when they're actually bouncing. I got one the other day whilst I was bouncing the ball, so I like the idea behind it. I just think they could have adjusted the time in between the points a little bit.
Do you think the umpires are going to have a lot of discretion, like the duration of the match, the conditions overhead?
No, because that's where I think it's wrong, that people are saying, oh, they have to give a bit of leeway if there's a long point. I don't agree with that. I think that's when the person who's physically stronger gains an advantage. They should be recovering in a certain amount of time, but I just think they should have adjusted the time slightly to maybe 30 seconds, because it's 25 seconds goes by really, really quick when you're on the court, and all it takes is, you know, your shoelace to come undone, and you know you're out of time. You know, and guys have been getting warnings when they change their racket, you know, for breaking a string or whatever, and that's also not right, I don't think.
How well do you think you're playing at the moment, Tony?
I'm playing okay, a bit up and down. I've served pretty well for the majority of the tournament. I've moved better every single match. Returning could have been better, and my ground strokes, I think, with the more matches, I'll start to hit them cleaner. When I've come up to the net, I've volleyed relatively well, so I think there's stuff for me to work on, but maybe the things that I normally do well in matches, you know, the strongest parts of my game haven't been that solid so far. You know, my return, like I say, could get better, and also my ground stroke's a bit cleaner.
And for Grigor, nerves, how much of a factor do you think they'll be in his first final? What was it like for you preparing for your first final?
I played Federer in my first final in Bangkok, so there is nerves, but also, you know, I went into that match with that much pressure, because you're not expected to win. You know, for him, I mean, I'm sure he'll enjoy it. He's going to be incredibly pumped up, but everybody deals with certain situations differently. I have no idea whether he'll be nervous tomorrow or whether he'll really enjoy the occasion. We'll find out tomorrow.
You face some different players, some different tactics this week. How does that fit in with your preparation going forward?
Yeah, it's always good to play a variety of different opponents with different styles, because, you know, in the slams you don't often come up against 5-6 guys that play the same. You know, so it's good to see what things you're doing well, what things you aren't doing well, and, you know, have a good idea, you know, at the end of the week, the things I need to work on next week, building up to the Aussie Open.
Andy, it's clear that the slams are considered by the players and most people the most important events in the world, but sometimes we have situations like the last couple of days with Victoria and then with Nishikori that they feel like they want to protect their body at all costs, and then to make sure they're okay for Melbourne, but in another sense it kind of hurts the tournament that they're in, so
yeah.
Maybe just talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's a tough situation for the tournament, and also for the players. You know, when you're coming up to, you know, to the slams, you know, they need to take priority for you. I mean, I don't really know what else I can say on that. You know, they're our biggest events, they're the most prestigious, but, you know, our goals as players is to be, in tournaments we enter, to be in the best possible shape for them, and that's why, you know, the players have complained about too many tournaments, because I think people want to see great tennis and they want to see players playing their best, and sometimes if there's a lot of tournaments, you know, that's when you often find guys pulling out or not playing particularly well, and the players are criticised for that. Sometimes it is hard to play well 4 or 5 weeks in a row in tough conditions, but now, first week of the year, there's been a lot of guys getting hurt in the Hopman Cup. I know Isner pulled out, Tommy Haas got hurt, and I think one other maybe got hurt as well. So it does happen a lot at the beginning of the year, and it's unfortunate, because, you know, it's bad for the tournament and for the people who come to watch.